Hey everybody, how are you doing? Hello, live studio audience. It is November 1st. Did you have a nice Halloween? I hope you did. We didn't. We've been in the house we're in now for over 4 years. I think this is either the fourth or the fifth Halloween since we've gotten back to the States, and there's never been any kids showing up. But last night there was, and so Jen, I kept telling her, honey, more families and kids have moved into the neighborhood over the last year than in the 4 years we've been here combined. You might want to be ready. She said, that's fine. No kids are going to show up, and even if they do, they all know the code. If you don't have any Halloween stuff out, if your porch light is turned off, move on to the next house, kinder. And nope. The cute little brother and sister dressed up as I don't know what. I didn't actually see them. Knocked on the door. Jen had to go over there and very sheepishly say we had no treats for them. Very, very sad. And sad for me too, because if she had listened to me when we were at Safeway on a ride back from our RV, we would have had a small bag of candy. We would have only had to give out 2 pieces of candy, and then I'd have a bag of candy today, which would have been a win-win-win for everyone, I think. But perhaps next year we will be a bit more prepared. Personally, I would have gone for like the mini Snickers. Snickers probably still my favorite candy bar of all time. Weird how hard it is to beat the classics. Although maybe that's just nostalgia. Maybe all the new hot... Are the new hot candy bar designs? I assume they must still be. But, folks, that's not what we're here to do. I am going to be, because it's a new month, recording my Rahdo Roundup of the previous month. I got 17 games to talk about, ranked from least favorite to most favorite. There will be some surprises. There will be even probably some controversial rankings amongst them. And I look forward to hearing what you folks have to say. Of course, as always, if you want to get my attention with questions about what I've actually ranked and how I've ranked them, start your question with a question mark so it goes in my special queue so I won't miss them. Because after we're done with the roundup, we will do some Q&A. And we'll have some time to kill. So definitely drown me with questions, folks, this time. Because I want to do a bunch of Q&A. Because at 2 p.m., in an hour and 55 minutes from now, we will be raiding Ruel. It's the RTR show today, Rahdo then Ruel. And on his channel, he is going to be doing a playthrough. Let's see, I've got it here somewhere. Where is it? A playthrough of Planet Flipper, which is a design and published game. First-time designer. I'm not sure about the publisher, Play Now. Has 2 A's in Play Now, but it's designed by Daryl Durston, who is a close friend of Ruel's. In fact, actually, Daryl has appeared on many of Ruel's live streams ever since he started doing stuff on Twitch. So I know Ruel is very excited to support his friend Daryl, and so definitely, after I'm done and we do the Q&A, stick around and check out Planet Flipper. It's property ventures in space. And that's all very, very nice. So I think that is fantastic. Let's see. Back to me. So, alrighty. It looks like people are starting to roll in. Now, what I generally do before I get to the main event, which is, doing the countdown of all the 17 games, I like to do an unboxing. Today, we're going to be unboxing Discordia from Iron Games, designer Bert Eisenstein, and artist Lucas Sigmon. And let me go on ahead and get the overhead camera. Boppity-bop. Boop. Alrighty, there we go. Oh, but the overhead camera is totally in the wrong place. Hey, that's not even remotely correct. Let's point this in the right direction, get it under the mic, bring it over here, and there we go. Okay. Oof. So, Discordia. I have not opened this. I have not played it. I have not read the rules yet. I know Slicker Drips, Tom Heath, has a nice solo run-through. So you want to know... this is one of the games I am planning on doing a run-through for in the month of November. The voters chose it. I think it was their number 1 highest picked voting choice on the ballot. So let's get it open. Alrighty. Whee! Who needs a knife? Alright. And oh, what just happened? What just happened? Primary Guy? Why, thank you, Primary Guy, for subscribing. That means your little Streamlabs avatar will be appearing somewhere very, very shortly, and you can hug people and fart and gamble and challenge people to duels and all kinds of things. And let's see, or you can just sit down and watch. And of course, also, if you want to direct message me, I will give you a discount code so you can buy Rahdo merch and now Ruel Gaviola Tabletop Tonight merch. And what else is there? Oh, there's exclusive videos. You have to direct message me because Twitch does not have a system where I could just tell everybody who subscribes what all the benefits are. But thank you very much for supporting the show with Prime, which meant it didn't even cost anything, Primary Guy. And also Goblin, thanks for resubscribing. And DJ Fox 10, wherever you are. Apparently you subscribed 4 days ago when I was offline. So somebody tell DJ Fox 10 that Rahdo said thanks next time you see him. Okay, so let's open Discordia. Oh, which, by the way, folks, before I do, very sad story. Small independent publisher Iron Games, unfortunately, was robbed at the Eschen Spiel Fair on Friday, which was their busiest day. And that is just heartbreaking. I'll talk a little bit more about that at the end because I want to wait for more people to show up because there is kind of like a fundraising thing going on for him. But Bernd Eisenstadt, I've met him several times in person, and he is just the nicest, warmest guy, one of the best unsung designers working in the industry. So let's look at his latest with a nice big box fart for Discordia. Okay, we have a whole bunch of meeples, which are a little smaller than normal. Wee little meeples. These are the workers that we are trying to employ. This is set in ancient Rome, I think in the Britannia region of ancient Rome. And I guess these are probably some kind of mechanization or automation gears. Not quite sure. But it looks like, yep, it's a lot of meeples. And a lot of those gears are stars. And I believe 3 dice, if I recall correctly. There's the yellow one, there's a blue one, and there's the red one. Okay. So, those are the wooden bits. Out of the way, wooden bits. There is a nice black cloth bag, which you cannot see in my black background. Decent size for a big meaty paw like mine. Oh, hey. Starting to see these things pop up in more and more games. These are stickers that you can use to turn your regular game boards into multi-level or multi-layer, dual-layer game boards. So, I didn't know these were going to be in here. So, alrighty, let's get to that. Some plastic bags. A rule book, which... I gotta say, folks, the number one thing about Discordia, Iron Games has... Oh, hey, this is German. This is auf Deutsch. Oh, here we go. Flip. Auf English, bitte. Iron Games has really raised their production quality game with this expansion. I mean, the designs are always great, but the presentation is always just a little bit... Okay, hey, there's a history. The Roman Rhine Valley Road. Okay, so it's not in Britannia. I guess it's in Germania Superior. Was one of the most important Roman roads in the north of the Roman Empire, connected Italy along the Upper Rhine with the Roman provinces of Germania Superior and Germania Inferior, and the Legion stationed there. With the Legion station on the Rhine, the previously military-dominated towns developed into civilian settlements and cities based on Roman model. Actually, let's go on ahead and tell the story of the game. Hey, it's the year 49 AD. The Roman Emperor approaches the peak. The Roman Empire approaches the peak of power. The first larger settlements on the border with Germania develop into military outposts on the Rhine. The strategic task of these emerging cities is to jointly secure the border in order to ward off the raids of Germanic tribes, i.e., the locals. At the same time, there is discord, or discordia, in the competition for the best possible developments of the infrastructure of brisk trade. As governor, you compete to employ sailors, soldiers, merchants, Germans, and farmers to achieve your goal. You've only 4 years to do this, and the Emperor Agrippina travels to these flourishing provinces with her son Nero to honor the most successful governor, lead your city to victory, and reap the victory. To win the game prematurely, you have no workers in your reserve. Otherwise, you're victorious with the fewest workers at the end of the 4th year. So this is really interesting. This game does not have victory points. Instead, we've got to get jobs for our citizens. If we can employ everybody, if we're the first player to do it, to get 100% employment, we win. Hooray. Okay, now this is, all right. I was kind of expecting dual layer boards here. This is just a normal flat board representing the player. All right, okay. Or is this one like that's, I think this is the game one. Hey, and it says sticker, 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 sticker. What do you fold these? No, there's no fold in it. All right. And then, yeah, okay, so these are definitely player boards. And this is the main, oh yeah, this is the dice drafting board. And then we've got, oh, this is interesting. Okay, so I bet you, yeah, look at this. You stick this down, you pop all these slots to hold all the stars, which I'm sure are some sort of upgrade. Bippity 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 bip. So this is really smart of Bernd. Getting dual layer boards while still keeping costs down, because again, he is a small independent developer, and avoiding the problem that some other recent publishers, what's it? The Alexander Pfister pirate game. Maracaibo had this problem where they had the thing where, oh, look, they come with dual layer boards. You just flip them, and then you stick them together, and they're dual layer boards. But once you flip them, they were off center with each other, and that was a real snafu. Here, it's only off center if I have it off center. So I just got to make sure I line it up. The picture lines up nicely. Let's go ahead and do one. Why not? Let's live dangerously. Okay, so I take one of these stickers, right, and I put it on the sticker spot. And then, after it's stuck, let's put a few more on. There's a bunch. Do you get all of this from, how is this for unboxing, folks? I still feel like an unboxing fraud. I don't know what I'm doing here, but I want to give you the full unboxing experience. And of course, if you got this game, this would be part of the experience for you. I really hope I'm doing this right, but it has to be. I mean, it's very clearly labeled. These are where stickers go, right? So, and then they come off. And so now, yep, there's a sticky surface there. Come here, you. There we go. Alrighty. Making a mess on the floor, but you don't have to see that. I'll clean it up later. Alright, now the last question. Are these things player color-coded? Could I mess that up? I need to, before I stick something on, I want to double check that. Because that would be sad. Alright, so this is ready to be stuck. Is there functionally any difference between these two things? I do not see any difference. These look exactly the same. No player color. So, okay, so I'm pretty confident. All right, so you out of the way. And then I take this, give it a little bend, make sure I'm lining it up correctly. Oh, this is kind of nerve-wracking. All right, let's go on ahead and see if we can get an overhead view. Want to make sure it's all lined up. That looks pretty good. Pretty good. All right. And I think so. Stick! Adhese! And now I've got a sort of dual layer board. And I'm sure, boop, I plugged in. Alrighty, there you go. So, this is a thing. Very unique, very different. Right. Oh, so we've got these rings, which I'm sure looks like they probably... Yeah, look at that. They go boop, 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 boop. They fit nice and neat. Oh, gets these stuck. Stick, adhese. There we go. So, that's an interesting twist. I've never seen a game do that. What do you think, folks? Would you I mean, obviously you didn't have to do it, but actually you kind of do. Because it's interesting, if you don't do it, if you're like, I don't want to have that pressure, in theory, all the information is here, except there's also these big sticker reminders telling you where to put the stickers. So you're going to do it. You know you're going to do it. But anyway, okay, what else have we got here? All right, so another player board, and yeah, the third one and the fourth one. All right, and then a bunch of tiles. That's hard, I guess, more than anything else. This is a tile laying game, and these represent the different industries you're building up in Germania Superior and Germania Inferior. And you can see they've all got dice, and they've got worker placement matching the colors of the workers, I believe, right? Because there were yellow, red, and blue workers. Were there white and white workers? So white workers got to go on this, and you use 4. I think, if I recall correctly, I read the rules for this months ago when I talked about it on the R&R show. And it struck me then, it's kind of having a burgundy vibe. Okay, and look, here come the invaders. Here comes the neighbors, or maybe these are the guards to fight them off. Yeah, lots of different pieces, but very bright, very colorful, and really nice art. Which, I mean, Peloponnese and there are other games, Iron other games have always looked okay, but this looks actually nice. This looks good. I mean, look at these docks; those look really nice and detailed. So, like I said, really upping their game, which is fantastic. Like I said, I am a huge Iron Games fan, and so as I understand it, the nature of this game is Oh, where did the drafting board go? Right? Of course it was at the bottom. Nope. It's a player board, a player board, a player board, a finished player board. Oh, yeah. Oh, well, which means, oh, that's interesting. So I already have these buildings built, and then I could build more red buildings to the right, and I believe you can override existing buildings with new buildings. So it's like you've already laid some of the tile on there. That's just a really nice feature. But anyway, this is the drafting board. In every round, we roll 3 dice. Whoever is the lead player, they go in the different spots. Whoever's the lead player takes 1 for themselves, and then all other players have to make do with the remaining dice. And those dice either let you claim tiles that are below the dice, or if you've already claimed tiles and built them, lets you deploy workers onto your worker placement spots and gather resources and do all the Euro-y goodness that you want to do. All with the goal of getting all your workers employed on all of your buildings, and it's a race to be the first to do that in Discordia. Okay, folks, that was an unboxing. What do you think? Alrighty. Whew. Yeah, I've literally got these little sticker things all over me now. That is funny. All right. Everything out of the way. So that was our first thing. We have done an unboxing. That is a good question, Goblin. Employed or enslaved? I do not know. It does not go into detail. Is there a history section? I think, did it say, as governor, you compete to employ sailors, soldiers, merchants, and farmers. Those sound like Roman citizens. Although I guess they could be slaves for the sailors, soldiers, merchants, and farmers. But they are literally, in the rule book, called sailors, soldiers, merchants, and farmers. So I think they are kind of sidestepping the darker side of history there, as is the case for most Roman-themed games. Alrighty. Let's see. Oh, dice manipulation? Oh, hey, you can't see overhead. Apparently there is dice manipulation to be had. And let's see. The Janus tiles. Is that one of the Roman gods? That doesn't sound familiar. Or is that the emperor or the empress or something? Anyway, so, Discordia. I'm excited about it, and I'm sad about it too. I started talking about this earlier. Now that a few more people are here, I want to make an impassioned plea for the good people of Iron Games. Now, oops, and there's no box in here, so it's going to fall over. I'm going to be doing a run-through for this in November. Like I said, it was very highly voted for amongst my voters. And so you'll be able to get to see the game. And hey, if it looks at all interesting to you, and maybe you're on the fence, definitely consider picking up a copy. You can direct order it from Iron Games, because there are a small little independent publisher. It's pretty much just Bernd and his wife, I think, pretty much doing all the work. And on Friday, the second day of Essen Spiel, their booth was robbed. And that was their busiest day. That is the busiest day of Essen Spiel. And, if my wife does board game conventions, and if her booth was robbed on a Friday, that's not just, that's a quarter of her income for the convention. That's like a sizable portion of her income for the year. And, Bernd is just a little independent guy trying to make ends meet. And, the fact that, he got such a huge amount of money stolen is just heartbreaking. So when this happened back in October, which is as of yesterday, let me see. Iron Games robbed. I'm just doing a Google image search for Iron Games. Yeah, here we go. Where'd it go? Alrighty, come back to the browser. I see a search for Iron Games robs. And on Twitter, Jeffrey Allers, who is a frequent collaborator with Bernd. There is Bernd. Look how nice that old guy is. All dressed up to sell his Discordia, and then they stole everything from him. Apparently Bernd was encouraged to say, hey, see if you can just get, a little bit of support from the internet. So, Bernd set up a PayPal.me Iron Games account. And I believe if you go to that, you basically just end up on PayPal. And you can Yeah, I mean, you could wait and actually buy the game. I'm sure that would make Byrne very happy. But if you just want to send him a couple of bucks and say, I'm really sorry to hear what happened at the show, you do great stuff. Rahdo sent me or whatever. You can go ahead and send. And if you have a PayPal account, you can, which I'm not going to tell you my password, you could log in. Or I think you can just do a one-time login and then just use a credit card to spread some love around. You don't have to. Don't worry about it. I mean, obviously, these are tight times. Everybody's going through a tight pickle. But, I mean, man, I cannot even guess how devastating that must be for Byrne. I mean, I can only compare it to Jen. If she lost a day's revenue at Board Game Geek Con or Dice Tower West, I mean, that would be devastating, not just for the show, but for her business. So something to consider if you have a little bit extra and you're feeling the holiday spirit. Let me go on ahead and what was it? It was paypal.me/Iron Games. I will literally copy and paste that in the chat. Boop, boop. PayPal.me/Iron Games if you just want to spend some holiday cheer to one of the great unsung designers in the industry. I mean, Peloponnese is in my top 10 games of all time, and I cannot wait to try this. This looks fantastic too. But anyway, that is that, and let's move on to the next. Oh, speaking of Jen and conventions and all of that, good news, everyone. Jen and I thought we were kind of done with doing local conventions because after we did Dice Tower West earlier this year, by the way, folks, I'm basically doing a long, rambly version of what I'm going to actually say in the regular Roundup intro, which I'm going to film afterwards, because I have Kimberly's countdown, but I don't have Shay's countdown yet, so I've still got to edit all that stuff together this afternoon. So today you're just going to see my countdown. You're not going to see the intro to the monthly roundup, so I'm just giving you the same info. What was I saying? Oh, yeah. So we thought we were kind of done doing conventions, but then we bought an RV, and it occurred to us, we can just drive down to Vegas instead of fly, because we are done flying to conventions after, our flight getting canceled on us and Jen pretty much getting almost all of her profit from the last Dice Tower West completely wiped out because they wouldn't refund us for the canceled. It was just such a nightmare. But now we're looking for reasons to drive around places, and we've got an RV. So we're thinking we will be at Dice Tower West, and was it the first week of March, if I recall correctly? Something like that. And so Jen will be there selling gamer glass. Hey, Linus Cabal, thank you for resubscribing. Yeehaw. But that's in the future. Folks, did you know it's November? Did you know famously in November there's a Black Friday where companies do all kinds of sales, but online they start doing Cyber Mondays. But these days, people don't wait until the final week of November. They start doing all their big crazy holiday sales, for the entire, right up at the beginning of the month. And that's what Jen is doing. Jen, let me see, has just this morning launched since we're in 2022, it's a 22% off sale at her Etsy store, specifically for any stuff that has meeples on it. Meeple earrings, meeple jewelry, little glass meeples. The only one that's not applicable for is her huge mega meeples. She's not doing 20% discount, 22% discount on those. But anything else on her Etsy store that you see that has meeples are 22% off if you use the code. You can see right over there, holiday22, and you type it into the little code space. And while you're at it, folks, I haven't mentioned this for a while, but it's still valid. When you're buying anything from Jen's store, use the word Everdell down in the comment section. You can see right there, and we'll send you the Rahdo Runs Through Everdell card. Now, to be fair, I mean, this is a card that works with the the water expansion, like Stony Brook or Waterbrook or something like that. And this is actually a replacement for the Messenger card. Basically, it's the same art, it's the same function. Instead of saying Messenger, it says Rahdo Runs Through. So after you build a bridge in Everdell, you can play this and have me run across your bridge and say, live and let live, which is different than what the original card said. And so those are free no matter what you buy on Jen's Etsy store if you use the code Everdell, not as a promo code. That's where the 20% off Meeple stuff is. But just in the comment to the seller, if you type in Everdell, that means, hey, whatever you bought, and again, Jen's glass stuff makes great Christmas gifts, as you might imagine, for the gamers in your lives. You can also get them, if you have some Everdell superfans in your life, the limited edition exclusive Rahdo Runs Everdell promo card. Okay. Phew. I promised her I would do that. I have now done it, although now I've got to do it again. But this is just a trial run. I will try to be a little bit more succinct and to the point when I do the roundup tomorrow. Or when I do the intro for the roundup, probably later today after I get Shay's video. Oh, my goodness. So, hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Sorry if you just got here and missed the Discordia boxing and all the information about Jen's Black Friday discounts and all that. But hey, all of this will go up on YouTube tomorrow anyway, right? Because I'll take this entire live stream and put it on YouTube. But if you're here now, you can actually do some back and forth. Let's do some back and forth. Oh, wait. Oh, somebody has actually commented. Somebody's just replying to something I had said before. Here's the interesting thing, folks. If you ask me a question and I somehow miss it, after I'm done filming the show, sometime over the next couple of days, I go back and I watch the entire show at literally 16x speed, solely so that I can read all of the comments. And if I missed anything, I send people direct messages on Twitch to answer the questions or, oh, say thanks, that was a very nice thing to say, or whatever it might be. Righty. So, oh yeah, Kabuki, still rocking our Hotmail. Did you notice, Kabuki? I was in so early on Hotmail, I got my name, Richard Ham at hotmail.com. I probably shouldn't announce that so loudly. Seeing as how it's an email address I've had for, 20 years now. That email address is unfortunately 2/3 spam. Unfortunately, I don't need any more, so I shouldn't be flagrantly throwing it out. But I've been with Hotmail so long, there was a time when I actually had to pay Microsoft to use that email account, because once upon a time they charged. I think they stopped charging when Gmail was launched, and they realized, oh, okay, we can't get away with charging for this anymore. That's ridiculous. Alrighty. Anything else in the chat? See, people talking about slavery in ancient Rome. People talking about Fister games, it looks like. All right. Those stickers tend to be very strong, and there are 5 of them. In the games I have, they are still functioning correctly as we... Oh, apparently people were asking about the... oh, yeah, I see. I can definitely confirm. That one I just stuck, that adhesive was very strong. So that's why I was so careful, because I figured once it was on, it was not going to come undone without actually damaging the board. So, so some assembly required with Discordia, but I'm sure that is to keep the cost down, because Iron Games is also fairly well known for being, they don't do 100 plus, 200 plus super expensive games. They're just all about the gameplay over at Iron Games. All right, okay, it looks like everything's going all right. Let's see, do I have any outstanding requests that I can do without Ruel? Let's see, what have we got here? We got Ruel ranks. I got to do that with him. Got some this or that's. I know he loves doing this or that's. But we have 2 requests for this or that's. So how about I do one of them? Folks, I'm just filling a little bit of time, and then we will... Or you know what? Actually, no. Let's wait till after. It's been a half hour. I think if people were going to show up for this, they're here by now. So I don't have to stall anymore. We can actually start the roundup. And I've got, if you folks have questions, post them to me in the comments, starting with a question mark, so they go into my queue of questions. And I'll do a Q&A afterwards, and I'll do like a this or that, or not a Ruel Wanks, but maybe a top 3 or something. And then remember, folks, at 2 o'clock, you'll want to stick around and join the raid, because we will raid Ruel, who is playing a brand new Property Ventures in Space game, Planet Flipper, from his personal friend Daryl, who is also a frequent contributor to his. So in case you missed late, this is what's going to happen afterwards. So today it's Rahdo, then Ruel. So you've got a lot of gaming goodness going on this afternoon. We don't need the overhead view anymore, do we? No, we do not. Okay. So, if we're going to go right, I've got my 17 tabs open. I've got my notepad with all the stuff, so I can put the things down below. So I think we're ready to go. Kabuki Kid, yours is stuff with spam too. Yeah. The Hotmail spam filters used to be fantastic, but I don't understand. How can they possibly not understand it's spam when the email is sent from something that is literally over 200 random characters at 200 other random characters .cz or something like that? What stupid, ridiculous spam bot filter can't recognize that is obviously a fake email account? I get dozens of those things every day. Somehow the spammers have cracked the code, because actually it's interesting. I tried several different, hey, pay $5 and we'll take care of your spam plugins for Outlook. None of them can handle the most basic, obvious thing. Folks, if there's anybody out there who uses a, for pay, I'll pay $5 a month to try and cut down on 2/3 of my email, which is spam, if it actually works. But I've tried several. None of them can catch this most basic, obvious thing. 200 characters at 200 characters dot some random small European, domain. That's frickin' spam. Spam bots? Jeez Louise. Okay. And Linnea says, but what if my lovely, all right, that's the thing. They are not that short, Linnaeus. Literally, I'm not exaggerating. Maybe not 200 characters, but they are easily 30 or 40 or 50 characters long at 30 or 40 or 50 characters long. Just a bunch of random hash garbage. And for some reason, that seems to overcome any spam filter in the world somehow. It's set to maximum spam filtering. It's ridiculous. Okay, so before we get going, we are going to battle to the death, of course. So let's go on ahead and get that going. Battle Royale. Alrighty. And I hear the plane coming around the bend. And I ain't seen a battle since I don't know when. But it looks like Linus Cabal is wearing a pumpkin on his head. Alrighty, and that's enough of the Johnny Cash. Let's go. Alrighty, Linus just throws right down with Primary Guy, brand new subscriber. Give Primary Guy a break, folks. He just actually helped keep this show going, and everybody just jumps on him. But Primary Guy's doing okay. With his naked little avatar, he hasn't had time to. Oh, he's down to half life, and Goblin is chasing him and backstabbing him. Primary, turn around, defend yourself. Okay, Primary at least did get one kill, but Goblin has it in for you, Primary Guy. Yeah, Goblin, he tracked you down to the ends of the screen. And now Goblin, his thirst for blood has not been satiated. He's going to throw down with the Flying Dutch Rocker. And then they were like two ships passing in the night. Goblin just got a little taste. And now he's coming for me! But, you shouldn't step to the Rahdo, Goblin. And now Flying Dutch Rocker and me. But Flying Dutch Rocker just misses the health pack. Oh, that could have saved you, Flying Dutch Rocker. But now you're going to get a balloon backstab from Rahdo. And I am the winner. Which, hey, I got 100 gold to customize, but I have infinite gold because I am the administrator. Pinoy, I would have to agree. That was definitely, there was some shenanigans going on there. I haven't won one for quite a while. I am in every single one, though. So it stands to reason that I will probably win a bit more often over the grand scheme of things than most, since I am always here, even when I'm not here. Okay, cool. So, let me get a sippy sip of water. Let's, right, I can minimize you now. I can come over here, right? So I've got that. And, yeah, I think I'm ready to go. All right, so at this point, I will have done all the intro stuff, talking about Jen's Black Friday sales, and, the sponsor and all that. Then, I've announced to everybody, hey, we'll probably be at Dice Tower West Convention. We'll be there in the RV. We'll have our dogs with us. Oh, they probably won't listen in the hotel. Talk about all that. But hey, let's hear from the contributors. We'll play Shay and Kimberly's videos, and then I will talk about Amy and Maggie's videos, and Ruel, I think, had a video. And anyway, and this will be right after I'm done with them. So, let's see here. Did I just see a glitch? Yes, I did. How? Why? There have been no glitches all morning. Why just now? Why now? Why now? Is there anything I can kill? I can't. You know what I can't kill? You know what I've actually started doing to try to just kill system resources? I've literally started using Task Manager to kill Windows Explorer. And that has helped too. Right, so let's just go on ahead and, not that you can see it, but I'm going to now kill Windows Explorer, which is weird that Windows can run without Windows Explorer. Alrighty, if I can find it on this big list of stuff. Windows Explorer in task. And all that means is I lose my taskbar functionally, which means I have to Alt-Tab between things, but that's okay. Alright, so, and then I got to close File Manager, of course, because that actually takes up a sizable amount of resources. Okay. And I see, thank you, Linus, for helping. Yeah, if you want to customize your avatar, there are little links you can click below the video if you're watching in a browser. Also, I think somewhere over there's a little pop-up. If you hover over that, that'll give you access to your, your little avatar customization stuff too. And also, it's a way to issue commands without having to type commands into chat if you want to be a little more circumspect in what you're doing. Alrighty. So, Explorer is dead. Hopefully, that will be that. And, otherwise, we're good to go. So, right, will I be full screen at this point? No, I will be in a tiny little window, won't I? Yes, I will, because it would have been me talking about Amy and Maggie's, and then, so I'd still be in the little window. Right, so I need to get in the little window now. So, what do I put on the screen? What do I put on the screen? Let's just put let's just put that back on the screen. Okay, cool. So over there, this will be all, video running in the background of my father's work or something, one of the contributors. And then they will have been, and then I will just pop in here and say, thanks so much, gang, for all the good work you do, blah, blah, blah. And now, let's talk about Jen's and my games. 17 games we've got to talk about today, blah, blah, blah. And then I can just jump over. Oh, and I've got to have this ready as well. Okay. So, all right. Anything else? Am I missing anything? I think everything's okay. No one say that. Oh, one more thing, folks, especially for new folks here. If something goes wrong, right? If the sound goes out, heaven forbid, or the video, or I say something that is demonstrably false, which I do sometimes do, you can get my attention during the stream. Down below the video, there's a sticker plug-in, and if you use the, hey, listen, then I will hear that in my ear. Somebody hit me with a hey listen right now just to make sure it's working. I will hear that in my ear. I will just keep on going as if I didn't hear anything, but I will look over to the chat and see what it is you're trying to tell me. And if I can, I'll just work in. Listen. Thank you. Hey, yep, I heard that. Yep. Okay, I'm no longer listening, so stop listening or stop telling me to listen. But if I say something wrong, I'll, say it big, say it in all caps what I said wrong so I can just work that into my patter, or if I need to, I'll stop if it's some bigger issue. Well, bravo to you, Goblin, for killing a brand new avatar in their first battle, chasing them down. I'm glad I was able to stop your reign of terror. If I recall correctly, I think that's how the battle worked. Anyway, though, so, otherwise, I think we're good to go. Let's just wait for those stickers to go away, and then we can begin with number 17 on the list. All right. You did? Oh, you're a good man, Goblin. Yes, you must have had quite a bit. You must be rocking, I don't know how many gold coins from, because of course, if you're a subscriber and you have your little gold avatar, people are just passively earning gold coins that they can use for engaging in duels and customizing and all that kind of stuff and gambling. And 2,900. Okay, next battle I spot you in, primary guy, I expect you to be sporting some very sporty clothes indeed, and a nice big battle hammer or something like that. Not that the battle is just completely random. It's just totally arbitrary. You have no control. The way you dress up does not matter. But anyway, okay. So I think we are ready to go. So, okay, here we go. Oh, and let me put on the thingy. So that's a reminder up there, which will be more readable when I don't have a white background, that I'm going to stop paying attention. So if a raid happens or something like that, I'll probably just let it go and say hi after I'm done. Because I just try to get this done in one pass if I can. One take ham, they used to call me. They actually did. Used to call me that in a previous life. So, let's get going. One last sip. And now, folks, let's talk about the 17 games that Jen and I played. Well, 16 games we played. I played one extra. And that's actually going to be the first one I am talking about in my countdown from least favorite to most favorite game of the month. Let's talk about Space Hulk Death Angel with the 3 mini blister pack expansions, which is an interesting thing. Folks, maybe not everybody knows, if you're a member of the show or you back me on Patreon, every month I do a solo run-through, and this month I did a solo run-through of Space Hulk with all of the expansions turned on. And the reason I did is because it was a long-standing request on the Rahdo request geek list, and also because I'd never gotten a chance to play them, and Space Hulk Death Angel is one of my favorite solo games of all time. And so I finally took the chance to play them, and they come in at the bottom of the list, mostly because as nice as they are, and they are nice, don't get me wrong, they definitely add a nice flavor to the goings-on of Space Hulk Death Angel, which is basically a cooperative card game that is set in the Warhammer universe, but it's really might as well be called James Cameron's Aliens. But anyway, the expansions, one of them adds new Space Marines you can play with. One of them adds a new type of aliens you can play with, and one of them adds a bunch of new mission cards. And so I turned all of them on and did my best in the member-only video. You can, and people who Patreon or back me on YouTube can watch that and see how well it turned out. As always, it was a hard-fought battle. The Space Hulk Death Angel is one of the toughest co-ops out there. And I put this at the bottom of the list. One, because as nice as they are not worth hundreds of dollars, which is what people are charging for them on eBay or whatever. I mean, if you could get one of these expansions and if you really, really love Space Hulk Death Angel, and you could get them for maybe, I don't know, 40 or 50 bucks, you're still way overpaying, but I think that's maybe reasonable considering the extreme rarity. But here's the deal, folks. If you are only going to get one of them, do not get the one that gives new aliens, the Tyrannid pack, because I actively disliked that one. Because when those Tyrannids came out and they have special powers on the alien cards, it so upset the flow of the game, and they were so much extra bookkeeping you had to do to keep track. Oh wait, let's not forget there's a special alien over here which is buried amongst a stack of other aliens, and I just have the icon, and did not like that one at all. I really liked the new Space Marines in the I think it was called the Deathwing Assault Pack or something like that. They were really interesting because they focused a little bit less on combat and more on support, which of course is great for me. And the new missions had some nice variety as well. As a whole, I think they're wonderful. I'm very glad I have them. And it's amazing to me that even though Space Hulk Death Angel came in a super tiny little box, you can fit, if you have them all, you can fit all the expansions in the original box. But they're just not worth what they are going for. And of course, they'll never get reprinted because Fantasy Flight Games lost the rights to this universe many, many years ago. So it's for those reasons that the Space Hulk Death Angel expansions come in at the bottom of the list, number 17. Although, to be fair, I really enjoyed my time with them, except for the Tyrannus pack. Oh man, that Tyrannus pack, I did not like it at all. I would never play with it again. Okay, now let's move on to number 16, another science fiction game. It is, where are we? There it is, Star Wars, The Clone Wars. And now this is basically Star Wars played with the pandemic gameplay formula. It's not designed by Matt Leacock. Some other designers have come in, but they have done a very, very admirable job, I think, transporting the flair of the Star Wars Clone Wars universe. So this is less about the movies and more about the Clone Wars TV shows, animated series, and all of that. All your favorite characters are here. I've never watched the animated series, so many of your favorite characters are here, and the planets and all of that. And it's all driven by the same, hey, on your turn, you've got 4 action points to spend to move around from planet to planet, fighting droids instead of plague cubes that just keep popping up at the worst place at the worst time. But a big focus on this game is every time you play, you're going to go up against a different Sith Lord. General Grievous, Darth Tyrannus, and I think those are the 2 I recognize, and the other ones were from the cartoon, so I didn't recognize them. And they are going to be running around on the board independently, pursuing their own agenda. And depending on which Sith Lord you fight against, you have very different things. We played with, Christopher Lee, Count Dooku, and his whole thing was he brought in 2 helpers, and they were actively chasing us and trying to hunt us down. They were Jedi hunters. But there's another one that just actually moves out to all the missions and tries to make the missions much more tricky for us to overcome. Because in this game, we're not trying to cure diseases. We are trying to move to the right planet at the right place at the right time to partake in a mission. And I bet you anything, these missions are probably taken from the show as well. Now, what changes from Pandemic, the biggest thing is the way cards work. This is not a game where you have a handful of cards and you do a set collection or you spend those cards to move around the board. Instead, these cards represent the different clone troopers and equipment and armor and vehicles that you are leading as a Jedi general in battle. And you never discard these cards to trigger their effects. Instead, you just tap them to use them. And on your next turn, they untap. And you can tap them on your turn, you can tap them on your team's turn. But unlike regular Pandemic, where your constantly, I'm trying to manage my hand. I got too many. I've got to spend all these cards, and your cards are constantly coming and going. Here, you get a big group of clone followers. You carry them around for a while, and you need the right types of clones to have a better shot at rolling the dice and completing different missions as you move around the galaxy. And of course, if somebody else is at the same mission you're at, they can tap their clone troopers to help you when you're doing a die roll with a 12-sided die to see if you get enough successes and if you take damage and all of that. So the whole thing works very well. And I think the design, well, I mean, I'm not crazy about bringing dice into Pandemic. Pandemic doesn't need it. I would have liked to have gone without that personally. But you know what? Considering the target audience, this is much more mass market because it's Star Wars. I think it's the appropriate thing for them to do. And in fact, I mean, Jen and I did definitely enjoy our game. Our only problems I really had with it, one, it's maybe a little bit too easy. We played our first game, and I checked afterwards. We didn't really make any significant errors. And we crushed it. The game could not, I mean, and we're experienced Pandemic players. So we know how to make the right choices and the wrong choices and when to compromise and when to sacrifice and when to prioritize things. So, we're not new. We're not Padawans here, but we found it was a little bit too easy. And the thing that bothers me, the game comes with, it says in the rules, is maximum difficulty not hard enough? Here's a way to make it harder and harder and harder. I appreciate that, except this is the cardinal sin of this game. Really, for me. To make the harder you want this game to be, the longer it has to be. Because you just increase the difficulty of the game by making a bigger and bigger stack of missions you have to do. And so, if I want the game to be twice as hard, it's literally going to take twice as long to win. And I am not a fan of that at all. There are dozens of ways that developers could have increased the overall difficulty of the game without having to increase the length of the game. And since for us, we would have to increase it really high to have a challenge, because we're just, again, we played hundreds. We've played probably over 100 games of Pandemic by now. Maybe even over 200 games with all the variations and the what we call them, the legacy games and all of that. So I wish they would have had a different way to increase the difficulty. But now, if you're a new player, or hey, if you're just a Star Wars fan, or more to the point, if you're a board game geek and you have Star Wars fans in your life that you would like to pull them in, this game is fantastic for that. It really captures the feel of Star Wars. It actually has a little bit more rules overhead than straight Pandemic, but it's still pretty approachable. And I think what it sets out to do, it does nicely. I would have rated it significantly higher if it weren't for make the game harder by making it longer, which was, for me, kind of a big boo-boo in an otherwise excellent, repurposing of my favorite game of all time, Pandemic. That is Star Wars: The Clone Wars. Alrighty, then let's move on to the next one. We have got Pampero. Right? Where is it? There it is. Pampero. Okay. Now, this was a paid Kickstarter preview, and Jen and I were both very, very impressed by this one. It's a game from a relatively new designer who has really gotten his bona fides by being, if I recall correctly, a very active playtester, an official playtester for the designs of Vito Lasarda, who, of course, is one of the greatest board game designers of all time. I'm a huge fan of Vito's work, and what's his name? Oh gosh, Julian Jambo? Julian, I think, has come up with a game that feels like, if you had told me this had been designed by Vito Lasarda, I could believe it. Because it is big, it is heavy, it is crunchy, and it is brilliantly designed. At its heart, like a good Vito Lasarda design, it has a very simple mechanism of, I've got cards that help me build up green infrastructure, wind farms in Uruguay. By the way, folks, did you know Uruguay gets 95% of its electricity as a country is generated from wind? Isn't that amazing? This game tells the story of how that came about through government subsidies. Because we are independent, energy conglomerates trying to grab all the subsidies we can and turn Uruguay green in the biggest, best way possible. And it's a brilliant design. You can watch my run through to see more. There's a lot of interplay between players because players can use each other's, equipment. If they're not in the right place, if you're not in the right place, but I am, you can just go ahead and pay me and use my stuff. And we'll both benefit from it. It also has a really deep mini game that is all about building up your power grid as you invest in more and more infrastructure and unlock all kinds of bonuses. The game is incredibly impressive. I think people are really going to fall very hard in love with this game. The only reason it comes in so high for me and Jen at, what was it, number 15, Pampero, is the fact that it is a bit too heavy for us. Jen and I found long ago, it was Vito Lasarda. It was Vito Lasarda's Lisboa that finally broke me and said, Vito, I love your games, but they're just going to be too heavy for me and Jen anymore. And then he doubled down on that with On Mars. So I'm still kind of in the Vito Lasarda gallerist Vinos, high end of game complexity, but not as heavy as it can get. Pampero says, hold my beer, hold my wind farm, and they push a very beautifully produced game with wonderful interactive gameplay between players, positive interaction instead of negative interaction. A lot to recommend here if you're looking for a very, very heavy business simulation. Number 15 on the list, Pampero. Okay, then let's go on to number 14 on the list, which I suspect is probably going to be my most controversial pick of this episode. Number 14 is Great Western Trail Argentina. And people are saying, what? Great Western Trail is arguably designer Alexander Pfister's greatest design of all time. And you know what? If you feel that way, I wouldn't blame you. It is brilliant. It is him doing one of his signature moves, gigantic super rondelles with branching paths and all of that, as we try to drive our doggies, well, in the original Great Western Trail, across the American West to get them to, what was it, Salt Lake City, St. Louis? I don't remember where. Now we are driving them through the pampas of South America, of Argentina, trying to get them on ships to ship them overseas. And the core Great Western Trail gameplay is here. It hasn't changed, but like a whole expansion's worth of content has been layered in. And honestly, I suspect, given enough time, in a couple of years, most people will come to prefer Great Western Trail Argentina over Great Western Trail because it adds more complexity to the game with this concept of ships and feed. Not only do we have to just move those doggies along, we gotta feed them too. Foreign ports of call that we're trying to be the first to get our contracts in. There's a bunch of extra stuff added to the core gameplay. And for me and Jen, I was like, I don't know if we needed all this extra depth and complexity. There was already enough in the base game. But the interesting thing is, at the same time, the game is much more wide open. If something you want to do seems to be blocked, chances are you can do something almost as good elsewhere. The original Great Western Trail was a bit more harsh and unforgiving. And if you weren't careful about how you planned things, like, oh my gosh, I wasted this entire cattle run. Here, the game, like I said, just gives you a lot more ways, get out of jail free cards. In my run through, I likened it to the difference between Brass Birmingham and Brass Lancashire. Lancashire, the original Brass, is a bit simpler, less complex, and also much more brutal to play through, because you really have to play extra smart to avoid the traps you can fall into. And then Brass Birmingham introduced more complexity, but that complexity made the game a little bit more forgiving. Same thing has happened here with Great Western Trail Argentina. Now, all these changes didn't do anything to address my number one problem with Great Western Trail, which is it's also, can be, in a two-player game, a pretty cutthroat game because, I know you need to travel this way. I'm going to go out of my way to build buildings that are in your way to bleed you dry. In a higher player count game, I mostly build the buildings where I need them to go. In a two-player game, though, I build them where you don't want them to go. And Jen and I found we were tripping over each other, just like back when we played Great Western Trail. It's why I still prefer Maracaibo, another Alexander Pfister game that is all about a gigantic rondelle. But, folks, it does Great Western Trail proud. I still thought it was very amazing. All the new elements thrown into the game were really beautifully done, nicely thematic, and added that extra crunch if you're a hardcore Great Western Trail fan, and that's what you're looking for. And if you've ever been playing Great Western Trail and you got, I'm so frustrated, you might want to try Argentina instead. You will find more ways to skin that cow when you go south of the border in number 14 of the month, Great Western Trail Argentina. And now I will never have to say that again. Okay. Although I very much enjoy it. All right, let's move on then to number 13 on the list, Gathering Gloom, which was a game that was going for crowdfunding. I think its campaign is almost over, and very sadly, I don't think it's going to fund, and it breaks my heart because this is a very, very sharp, cooperative game that you would be forgiven if you were looking and say, hey, is this like the Addams Family, the board game, or the Munsters, the board game? It's about a creepy family of spooky but kind of silly characters, running afoul of the local townsfolk as they just try to get by. Actually, maybe not as many people recognize, but if you're familiar with the old American Gothic soap opera Dark Shadows, this is basically Dark Shadows, the board game. And I'm not talking about the Tim Burton film remake, because this game gets pretty macabre. In this game, hey, we're doing cooperative worker placement stuff in really brilliant ways. Multi-use worker placement spots, multi-use cards that we can use to, sacrifice some cards to play other cards, to interact with the townsfolk. And the townsfolk is the beating heart of this game, because they start out, they're all suspicious of us, but hey, if there's a really good townsfolk who could help us with our goals, how about we seduce them or hypnotize them? Or if you're the werewolf, bite them and turn them into a werewolf so they'll join our party and help us. But over time, these townsfolk start getting more items. It's kind of like you're being hunted by real human players who level themselves up. And you're like, I didn't really mind the FBI agent at first, but now the FBI agent has a gun. We got to solve this problem, because if they start stalking us, that's really going to slow down our progress. But when I say macabre, I'm not kidding, folks. If you murder somebody, or more to the point, if you're being stalked by the FBI agent with a gun and you move over to my area and I have one of my followers murder your follower, well, that body goes to the morgue. And if too much evidence against us builds up in the morgue, that can really slow us down. But we can transfer the bodies from the morgue to the mortuary, which we own. And the game doesn't go into detail what happens to the bodies in the mortuary. Basically, we can suck out their souls and use them to fuel other things. So the game, it's very silly. It has a really, again, I guess Tim Burton-esque, Sweeney Todd-esque sense of humor to it. And really, really smart multi-use card, worker placement, a cooperative gameplay that is wonderful. And also, did I mention it's a deck builder? But it is the highest velocity, most freedom given deck builder in the universe. The way they completely redesign how deck building works, and basically throw out all the precepts that Donald X. Vaccarino gave us with Dominion and come up with a completely new way to do it that I found so exciting. There's a lot to recommend here. I hope it funds somehow. I hope we have not heard the last of Gathering Gloom. The only reason it comes in so low for me is really my wife. It was too dark for her. Too macabre, too dark, and but for me, it would be in my top 10. But all of these rankings are a combination of my feelings and my wife's feelings. So anyway, that was number 13 of the month, Gathering Gloom. All right, then, let's move on to number 12 of the month. I have no idea how to pronounce this. Onironauts. Oneironauts. I'm going to say Onironauts, maybe. Once again, publishers, please put pronunciation guides for your weird game concepts. Here's what this game is, though. This game rated super high for Jen. This was like, I think, her number 2 or her number 3 game of the month. It's my number 12 game of the month. But I will never get rid of this game. This game, effectively, as far as Jen and I are concerned, replaces Dixit, because it is effectively cooperative Dixit. And it's cooperative Dixit that works well with 2 players. Now, it doesn't work great with 2 players. This is a game where you definitely, like Dixit, the more players around the table, the better. As we all have a handful of beautiful, wonderful cards full of just dreamy, surreal art, and every turn there's going to be a word that is chosen randomly from a deck of cards, right? And everybody has to pick a card from their deck, play it, because if it matches, like War is the one that's on screen right now. So I try to find my best War card. Everybody tries to find their best War card. We all add them to this deck face down, and then we draw and throw in one extra random one. And then we put them all on display, and everybody has to guess, right, of those cards, which was the one that was chosen by a human and which was the one that was chosen randomly. And that sounds so simple, and it is. It's so pure and clean and elegant, and Jen and I both instantly fell in love with it. Now, of course, the card art is fantastic too. And now, as a 2-player game, the reason it doesn't rate higher for me is because often in a lot of rounds, it's going to be really obvious that, One of these things doesn't fit. These two are both really perfect war cards, but this other one isn't. And so often we can pick it. But that doesn't change the fact that even as a two-player game, like in this little bit that's being run on screen right now. By the way, this was another member-only video if you back on YouTube or Patreon that you got to see Jen and me play a game of this and also a game of Star Wars Clone Wars. We played all the way through. So it's still a bit more challenging, but I think it's a little bit more random. It's subject to a bit more random swinginess at a lower player count, whereas at a higher player count, you've got more people throwing stuff in, which means you've got more people guessing correctly, which means you're scoring more points, and I think it's just going to be more fun when people say, wait a minute, why did you throw that one in? That one's obviously terrible. And they'll say, well, it's the right color, or whatever it might be. It's great. It engenders all those same wonderful feelings that Dixit did, but as a cooperative game that works with two. It's amazing. This one's going in our RV. This is a game that we're always going to want to have on hand in case we ever run into people who say, well, show us one of your board games. This is such a great icebreaker, and it does everything we want out of Dixit in a fraction of the time, in a fraction of the complexity, no weird scoring stuff, and you work with people. I'm super impressed by it. My only real complaint, because I'm not even bothered by the randomness. I still have too much fun playing it with just Jen. My only complaint is really the title. Number 12. I'm gonna guess or Ironauts. Anyway, though, let's move on now to number 11 on the list. Fit to Print. And now this is a really interesting one. This is a game that is going to be going live on crowdfunding in November. I got an early version of it. I did a preview for it. You'll be able to see this preview soon. And the interesting thing is, the game comes with several different modes. This is in a cute, anthropomorphized woodland animal world where they're running newspapers, and we're trying to design the best front page we can, drafting tiles that represent articles, news articles, ads, and pictures. And there's all kinds of rules for the tile laying that you have to adhere to while you're trying to get the right things in the right place to score lots of points. Just a nice, standard, solid tile laying game. Everybody's working on getting the right bits for their own page because they have their own special powers. They have, all kinds of stuff. The tiling works great. The drafting works great. And here's what's interesting. My run-through shows the turn-based version of the game, which is what Jen and I played. You can also play the game real-time, at which point it really borrows a lot from Czech Games Edition's classic Galaxy Trucker. But I think it really throws in some new interesting twists to the Galaxy Trucker format as well. Because in this game, when you're playing real time, you don't just grab the tiles and put them directly onto your ship. You put them onto your news desk, and you have to make a considered choice to say, I'm done collecting tiles, now I transfer them to the board. I have not played it. I played it solo as a real-time game, thought it was great. But here's the important thing. After I finished filming, I put it in the mail, International Express, to Down Under, because Amy and Maggie by now should have the copy, and they're going to be filming the real-time gameplay. And I cannot wait to see their run-through, and when this goes live, crowdfunding, you'll see me doing the turn-based and Amy and Maggie doing the real-time. The game also comes with like a puzzle mode. It comes with a family-friendly mode. It's really great. It's from the same design team that have brought us Cascadia and Truffle Shuffle, and I was really impressed by it. I really enjoyed it quite a bit. I really did want to play the real time though, because if you play the turn-based, a lot of the cool, like the special player powers and the daily events that will, all those are left out of the turn-based. So I think I would rate it even higher as a real-time game, which is why I cannot wait to see Amy and Maggie giving a run through, and you'll see me doing it too in a totally different way, of number 11 on the list, Fit to Print. Okay, then let's go on to a number 10 on the list, Race to the Raft. Okay. This is the sequel to Isle of Cats, which is one of the greatest polyomino tile layer games of all time. It was a competitive game where you were trying to rescue cats from an island where pirates were coming and they were going to burn the island down. Well, people always ask, what happened to the cats we didn't save in Isle of Cats? Well, those cats will save themselves. And that's the story that Race to the Raft tells, because the cats that were left behind, there's a raft. And they've got to navigate a complex maze while the place is burning down and fire is nipping at their heels, and we're working cooperatively in this, what do you call it, like a card layering game, where on my turn, I've got these different cards that I rotate and lay down to extend the green path for the green cat, or the red path for the red cat. Also, those cats, I can either play those cards to extend the paths, or I can discard the cards to get the cats to actually move. And we win if we get them all on the raft before the whole place burns down. And oh my gosh, the game comes with so many cool features. I don't remember, it comes with dozens and dozens of different hand-created missions for you to play through. Jen, I actually played through a few and really enjoyed the puzzly nature of it. It also has a fun take on imperfect communication, Hanabi style, trying to give clues to each other, because you can't say exactly what's in your hand, but you can talk general strategy. It's got a very cool event deck that you're constantly dealing with. And then it also has cool things like sometimes, there's a leader of the cats and they got to get on the boat first, but they're the one that's farthest away. And so you've got these extra considerations. You can watch my preview I did of it to see just how much fun it is. Isle of Cats is fantastic, but if you ever want to say, I want to work with people to help the cats instead of try to beat people at helping the cats, well, you might want to check out Race for the Raft. Okay, then let's go on to number 9 on the list, and we've got series. I think I just literally put this video up today, or yesterday from maybe your perspective, depending on when you're seeing this, or 3 years ago if you're seeing this video 3 years from now. That doesn't matter. Time is immaterial. YouTube is eternal. But what is this game? This is, well, first of all, I'm so excited. It is from Artipia Games, one of my longtime favorite board game publishers. It looked for a while like they were down and out. We hadn't heard anything about them for the majority of the pandemic, but they're back. They're fundraising this very, very cool, worker placement game all about mining the dwarf planet or asteroid, depending on how you look at it, series. And it's got a lot of really cool stuff to recommend it. It's got strong engine building elements, and the worker placement at its heart, it has basically 2 simultaneous worker placement games going at the same time. You've got one that's more standard. I've got my leader disc that I can send out to the board, and hey, if I grab a space before you, then, well, too bad. You'll have to try and get that next round. But we are also building our own personal private worker placement boards by building more buildings. It gives us more influence with the Martian Council, and triggers all kinds of nice combo-y elements there. But as we build more buildings to activate, we activate those with workers from a common pool. Which means at the same time that we are racing to get our normal workers out on the board to grab all the best spots, we are racing to draft all the specialist workers, the engineers, the scientists from the common pool to get into our own buildings. Because if I've got this amazing leveled up, because you can build buildings and then level them up, red building, and you grab the last red worker, I'm going to be very sad. But that's a choice I might have made because I need to get the last construction space on the main board before you took that. So it's definitely multiple level worker placement. It's got a great presentation. It's got a very, very fun board element that represents the asteroid belt, where there's 3 layers of spinning asteroids. So you're constantly having to make long-term plans for, okay, that asteroid is too expensive, but if I wait till next round, it's going to move into position. But will I be first player next round? Will I be able to get to it before somebody else does? So it's got that going as well. It's really sharp. You can check out my preview to see more. Jen and I both really liked it quite a bit. Number 9, series. Okay, we're not done yet, folks. There's a lot of good stuff in October, including number 8, Delta. This was another crowdfunding game that I did a sponsored preview for. And what's going on in Delta? This is, what would you call it? I guess you'd call it a deck builder, really at its heart more than anything else. We got a deck of cards that represents all my followers in this steampunk Victorian era world where we are trying to explore the Delta and study, not capture, study these beautiful mechanical creatures. But on your turn, you're going to take a card from your hand and you're either going to play it to the laboratory, to the library, or the Delta. And every round, you're going to play 1 card to each of these 3 locations. So it's really a deck builder / worker placement game. Because you're building your deck of cards, but then you use those cards as workers. And when you place those workers down, there's several things that happens for you. First of all, you get to interact with whatever area you went to. And depending on the worker you spent, you may get more or less good interactions with that because certain workers work well in some places better than others. But there is also an initiative system because above each of these 3 locations, there are cards that at the end of the round, we are going to draft. draft. And that's the main way we build our deck. We get new cards entered into our system by getting these cards. And whoever has the highest initiative in each of these areas gets first dibs on those cards. So if there's a new person you really, really want to recruit, you might send a really high initiative character to the laboratory so you can up your chances of being first in the draft to get it, even if that character can't do anything in the laboratory at all. Those are the really tough choices you have to make as you're doing this deck builder / worker placement game. And then on top of it, there's another thing that really elevates this game even more. At the end of the round, the cards you played, they go into individual discard buckets, and you get to claim one of those buckets back. This is very much the Alexander Pfister slow card trickle system introduced in Mombasa, brought back now in Sky Mines, but we also saw it in Blackout Hong Kong. I've always loved this, but it's always been in these heavier, crunchier Alexander Pfister games. Now that same idea is in a lighter, faster, not quite gateway, a gateway plus style deck building game, and so we can really focus on that element more so than in the previous games. I love everything about this game. I love the presentation. I think Jen and I both really enjoyed the gameplay of number 8, Delta. Okay, then let's go on to number 7. And now this one's kind of a weird one. Number 7, I would like to think of it almost as the Fantasy Realms Cinematic Universe, because I'm going to be talking now about Fantasy Realms, the Deluxe Edition, and Marvel Remix, which is basically Fantasy Realm converted into Marvel superheroes, and Star Trek Missions, which is the Fantasy Realms system transferred over into Star Trek: The Next Generation. And I love, first of all 3 of these. I could easily give all 3 a 7 on this list, but I am going to rank them. And I'm sad to say, folks, that the OG Fantasy Realms comes in at the bottom. It's my least favorite of the 3, even when you add, in the Deluxe Edition, the new, I forget what it's called, the Dark Treasures expansion, something like that. What is it? You don't know? This Fantasy Realms is you have a hand of cards. Every turn, you are going to draw a new card, either blind from a deck or from a face-up collection of discard cards. And then you're going to discard a card. And we're going to keep doing that until the discard pile of cards gets big enough. And then the game stops. Everybody tallies up all the points of all the cards in their hands. Whoever has the most points wins. The original game is pretty abstract. I mean, there are thematic touches. The princess wants to ride on the unicorn. The king and queen both want to be in your hand. If you've got a general, that means you want lots of army cards in your hand. And so every time somebody's discarding something, they don't know whether they're giving you something that's perfect for you. So there's a lot of, it's a simple, fast-playing game with a surprising amount of tension. And it's great. It's fantastic. Definitely the Deluxe Edition, which also comes, I think, with, if I recall correctly, cool custom sleeves, is all very, very nice. But as much as we enjoyed the core game, I'm going to talk about number 6 on the list, Marvel Remix. I like it even better. It's still the same core gameplay, everything I just described about. You have a handful of cards, you're going to draw a new card, and then discard a card. But there's a few things that change. One is you've got 2 decks to draw from, because there's 2 types of cards. There's all your heroic cards, which is where you score all your points, and then there are villain cards. And at the end of the game, you have to have at least 1 villain in your hand, because that's who all the heroes you're trying to recruit are fighting. And although you could have more, and so the villain is a source of points or a source of losing points if you don't get the right heroes, or a source of points if you do get the right heroes to fight them. Like Magneto, you should probably fight them with some X-Men as an example. So if you're keeping Magneto in your hand, you're looking for those X-Men to come out in the public display so you can grab them. And maybe X-Manor and stuff like that too. But I mean, the whole of the Marvel universe, comic book universe, is here, and I love it. And so there's a little bit of extra complexity with the 2 different decks and the extra interaction, which is very nice. But what really brings a Remix over Fantasy Realms for me is, at the end of a game of Fantasy Realms, I felt like, I got a bunch of points. And I've got just some disparate elements. But at the end of Remix, I feel like I wrote a comic book. Hey, Spider-Man teamed up with Luke Cage to take on the Leader, and they had a chase scene through the streets of Manhattan, and it ended up in an old abandoned warehouse, and these are all the cards I've got in my hand. But it feels much more thematic. And I mean, now maybe this is because make mine Marvel. I've been a Marvel Comics fanboy since I was a little boy back in the 70s. And, going down to the local convenience store and buying Marvel Comics off the spiral racks. I'm sure those things don't exist anymore. So, I mean, this really spoke to my, inner nostalgia and child. But even still, I think the game is better because it tells a stronger story while still having the same wonderful gameplay of its predecessor, Fantasy Realms. But folks, of the three, I'm going to have to give it to number 5 is, Star Trek Missions. That is the best of them. Because Star Trek Missions has that same thing that I just talked about in Marvel, a much stronger narrative element to the game. Because now we are trying to grab cards that represent the crew of the Star Trek Next Generation crew specifically, and so many elements from the TV show. And in this game, instead of recreating a comic book, we're recreating specific episodes of the show. Oh, is this going to be a holodeck episode? Well, I got Professor Moriarty. I want to try and find that holodeck. Or, oh, there's intrigue with the Romulans or the Klingons. So again, just like Marvel, it has that same wonderful storytelling. And this one also has 2 decks. You've got your main deck, and then you've got an away mission deck. And those away mission cards are the primary source of a lot of points, because if you've got the right away mission and you've got the right crew or equipment to deal with those missions, then you're really gonna pay a big. And there is the interplay between cards, each individual card has more unique traits that can dovetail and combo with more stuff. I mean, this game is the most complex in terms of the labyrinth of spaghetti between all these cards in your hand. Like, oh, I don't want to sacrifice this because it helps with this, but it doesn't help with that. And that one out there does, and I should grab that one and replace it, but oh, what am I going to do? So it has all the wonderful thematic stuff of Marvel. It is a more heavy and complex game than, Fantasy Realms as well. And, it's absolutely fantastic. And so it comes in this little mini run through as my number 1 of the Fantasy Realms Cinematic Universe. But you know what, folks? While we're here, let's throw some love to my real number 1, Rising Tide. This is not on the list. I have not played it this month. I covered this in a roundup many moons ago. This was from a different publisher, designer Jamie Stegmaier of Stonemaier Games. Openly admitted he's the biggest Fantasy Realms fan in the universe, borrowed a lot of ideas from Fantasy Realms, put them in the Red Rising universe, which is a very popular series of science fiction novels that I've not read, but really elevated the gameplay to a very, very high level. There's a lot more going on with multiple discard piles we're potentially drawing stuff from and putting stuff to, and multiple different progress tracks we're making rather than just most points in your hand at the end of the game. So it has that same core gameplay that I love so much in Fantasy Realms and all its spin-offs, but still, I'm going to have to give the real hat trick, is that right? Whatever, to Red Rising. Okay. But they're all fantastic, folks. Oh my gosh. I love them all so much. And really, they're all close enough that they could all get the same rating. But I'm still doing a countdown. And let's continue with number 4 on the list, Beer and Bread. Which, unfortunately, I got too late in the mail to put on the voting list to see if my backers would have chosen for me to cover it. And I'm kind of sad because Jen and I went ahead and played it anyway when we were recently on a weekend-long road trip in our RV. Perfectly sized little 2-player crunchy Euro card drafting game from Scott Alms. And oh my gosh, it is wonderful. I expect the voters will have me filming this in December if all goes to plan. So you'll see a run through from it for me eventually. But right now, just let me say, the gameplay takes place over 6 years, 6 rounds. In the odd years, we're doing a 7 Wonders style draft where I've got these cards. I'm going to pick one to play it into my little village, which is trying to brew beer and bake bread. And then the rest of the cards go over to my opponent and they go back and forth with me. So that, that works is very straightforward, except for the fact that every one of these cards is triple use. You can use them to combo with previous cards that you've played to harvest the barley and the hops and the water you need to, the wheat and all that to make the beer and the bread, or you can play them by tucking them under your side of the board to upgrade your production facilities, Or you can treat them as the actual recipes you need to fulfill to actually score points. And in this game, you're trying to make, you have to keep your beer and your bread in balance, because in a very Knizia style twist, at the end of the game, you tally up the points for all the beer and all the bread you made. The lower of the two is your final score. So you've got to bear all that in mind as well. And the interesting thing is, I said on the odd turns, we're doing a traditional Sushi Go style back and forth draft. Any cards that were played in one of those odd rounds to harvest resources, in the even rounds, in rounds 2, 4, and 6, we grab all of those cards, and those then become the cards we play in the next round. And so, not only am I using them for harvesting in the odd rounds and trying to combo them with other harvest cards, but it's also a way I can set these cards aside so I can play them later in the game. It's freaking brilliant. And Jen and I were both hugely impressed. Oh, one other thing I really love about this game, it's a game where you have very, very tight, limited, restricted storage as well. So you got to be really careful when you're harvesting stuff, because the more you harvest, the more you combo, and you get really big paydays. Anything you can't store when you harvest doesn't go back to supply. It goes to your opponent, because we're friendly villages, and this is a waste not, want not province we find ourselves in, and I love that. I love everything about this game. Simple little fast-playing card drafting game with engine building and all the rest of it. Absolutely brilliant. Number 4 of the month, beer and bread. But we're still not done, folks. Let's talk about number 3, King of Monster Island. And now here's the deal, folks. If you had told me a couple of months ago, when I was contacted by publisher Yell and said, hey, we're doing a cooperative version of King of Tokyo. I'm sorry, did I say King of Tokyo? It's King of Monster Island. King of Monster Island is my number 3. This is a cooperative sequel to King of Tokyo, which is one of my least favorite games I've ever played. Not that it's bad, it's just so not for me. It's just, original King of Tokyo or King of New York is a Yahtzee-style slugfest where we're each controlling big, gigantic kaiju monsters trying to pummel each other over the head. So when they said, oh, we're turning it into cooperative, wherever all the kaiju monsters work together to beat a super monster on a volcanic island, okay, I'll give that a try. Because I could see the gameplay was good from designer Richard Garfield, Mr. Magic the Gathering. It just wasn't for me because it was so punchy and just, ugh. But co-op, maybe that'll work great. Who knows? The next time I ever do a top 10 most surprising games, folks, this has got to go high on my list, because I was blown away by this. There is so much more than meets the eye in this game. At first, it seems so simple. Hey, every turn, the big bad boss rolls some dice by dropping them in the volcano, and they spread all over the island, and that determines kind of where the big bad monster that we're trying to beat, the King of Monster Island, is going to move and what they're going to do special powers-wise. And then we take our turn doing the same traditional King of Tokyo Yahtzee, roll, re-roll, re-roll, using the exact same dice from King of Tokyo, and then we use those dice to chase the big bad monster around, to help each other, heal each other, all kinds of stuff, to interact with the world, all kinds of things, and it's freaking brilliant. It's kind of like a lighter, almost more gateway version of one of the best co-op games to come out in years, The Loop. It has a lot in common with The Loop in the way that we are traveling either clockwise or counterclockwise around a central board, chasing a big bad, trying to stop them. But where The Loop was a really deep game with a lot of tough, crunchy decisions based on card drafting, this is a more fun, frantic, lightweight, Yahtzee-style dice chucker. And we both really enjoyed it a lot, especially because if you play at the higher difficulty levels, which, by the way, don't get longer. It gets harder if you play at a higher difficulty level, not longer. Lesson to the developers of Star Wars Clone Wars. If you play at the higher difficulty levels, it's really challenging, and you have to make tough, smart, long-term decisions. That basically the depth and the depth of the game gets greater the higher the difficulty level. So you could play this at the low difficulty levels and just have kind of a fun, just chucking. It's like a next step. If you have people in your life who loved King of Tokyo and you're like, well, hey, how about we try this? They'll probably love this too. And you can introduce them to a slightly heavier game where you work with people instead of trying to beat them over the head and, celebrate, combined victory. I'm really impressed by this. The presentation is great. The design is stellar, which shouldn't be surprising. I mean, Richard Garfield is one of the most consequential and influential designers of analog games in human history at this point, I would have to say. And King of Monster Island lives up to that pedigree. Well, not quite. That's a bit much. That's a bit hyperbole. I'll just say we really, really liked it a lot. Number 3, King of Monster Island. Okay. Then let's go on to number 2, Unconscious Minds. Oh my gosh. This is the sophomore to publish. Maybe there's been another game published from relatively new publisher, Fantasia Games. But their previous game was Winter Kingdom Paleo Americans. When I covered that a couple of years ago, Jen and I were completely blown away. Figured, hey, this is probably going to be one of our top 10 games of the year when it comes out. Exact same thing for this. This is set in 1903. It's Vienna. We are fledgling psychoanalysts under the tutelage of Sigmund Freud, doing a lot of really cool worker placement and rondel action to treat our patients. This game has so much going on. There are so many plates to keep spinning. You know, managing your relationship with Freud and the other psychoanalysts as you hang out in his apartment doing the worker placement stuff. Traveling through the city of Vienna, seeing all the sights and trying to get inspiration, and all of it towards getting the insight you need to analyze the dreams of your patients. And over the course of the game, you get more and more. They get more complex dreams to solve. And everything about this game is fantastic. The worker placement is incredibly clever. The way it has a single worker can point to 4 different worker placement spots on the board. And you can put 1, 2, or 3 workers to do a level 1, level 2, or level 3 version of that action, which is so cool. I love the worker placement. So fresh and original. But the rondel gameplay, as you're walking around the city, it is equally good. Super duper smart stuff up there. But really, all of that aside, this rich, deep, crunchy, complex Euro, I'll warn you, it's complex. I said in my run-through for this, my preview, that I wouldn't have been surprised if this had been published by Mind Clash Games and designed by Vita Lasarda. It's that good, and I mean that in the best possible way. But it also has these beautiful dream cards that feel like they're straight out of Dixit, these surreal images. Art from Andrew Bosley, the real-world art from Vincent Dutray, 2 of my favorite artists of all times. Any other month, this would have been my number 1. Any other year, this could have made my number 1 for the year. It's so good. Jen and I were just absolutely floored by it. And you can watch my preview to see why. But this month, folks, if you were paying attention, you probably already knew what my real number 1 is going to be. Kind of hard to beat. Castles of Burgundy. Specifically, the, what do you call it? The, a deluxe special edition, which I was lucky enough to get an early prototype of. It just went live for pre-orders now. And, don't get me wrong, folks. This does not change Burgundy. Your probably $20 copy of Burgundy from Ravensburger with, the very simple and modest components plays just as good as this. But geez Louise, the upgrade in terms of art, in terms of presentation, in terms of miniatures, I didn't think I was going to care about these miniatures, but these castles are just too nice not to want to build them. They are so great. And then there's an even more expensive one, which I did not have, where you have miniatures for like all the animals and stuff like that too. Very opulent, very decadent almost, and you don't need it. That's not what made me so impressed by this. It is not the fact that the game has such an insanely high quality production from Awaken Realms, new publisher, who teamed up with Ravensburger to bring this out. What really impressed me is a simple little change. The tiles that we are drafting, or they get added to the board that we use our dice to draft. It used to be they were just drawn from a face down pile. That's how Castles of Burgundy has always been. Now they're drawn from bags. And the reason for that is because on the backside of these tiles, there's text. And I never realized how much I hated having to constantly check a player aid to know, right, oh, this is the building that looks kind of like a big ring. What's that one do? I don't remember. Let me check the player aid. Now, when you put those tiles out on the board, you just put them face down and you can read exactly what all the tiles do. I take back what I said ago. This game is so much more playable now because of that one simple production change. I'm absolutely in love with it. It would be very, very difficult for me to ever go back ever and play the original Castles of Burgundy ever again. I gotta get this because it just makes everything sing and play so much smoother, which is something Burgundy needs because it's such a big, long game. But, oh man, Jen and I had so much fun playing it. This is a game in my top 10 games of all time. It's my number one Feld game from my number one designer, Stefan Feld. So it's no surprise it was going to come in number one. And I expected, it's going to be beautiful. Awaken Realms does beautiful productions. I get that. But I didn't expect that they were also going to fix something that I didn't even realize was broken. The heavy reliance on player aids. Now with the text on it, oh my gosh, it's so much better. Now I should warn, I have to do an update, actually. Maybe I'll film that this afternoon for my final thoughts, because a couple things have come to mind or come to my attention since then. One, for people who watched my run through and thought, I don't like those dice, they seem kind of confusing. One, Jen and I had no problem with them, but it doesn't matter because Awaken Realms has heard the hue and cry of people, and they're going to redesign the graphic design of the dice so that people shouldn't have a hard time reading them. So, FYI. More importantly, if you pay a little bit extra to get beautiful, wonderful feeling acrylic tiles, which of course you want to pull acrylic tiles out of the bag instead of cardboard tiles, although the cardboard tiles are nice and big and thick, but you want those acrylic tiles, right? Here's the problem. Those acrylic tiles do not have text on them. And so you have to go back to using a player aid, which the game will come with. So I need to do an update to let people know, but in case you missed that update and you catch this, if you have ever wanted to try Burgundy, and you've got enough to get a super deluxe. I mean, don't get me wrong. There is nothing wrong with the version of Burgundy you can probably buy new for 20 or 25 euros or pounds or dollars or whatever, because it's still just as great as it's ever been. But this so elevates the game. Plus, it adds a really great new solo mode with an Otama, co-designed by Dave Turchi. It comes with a new extra expansion. It's got all the expansions except for one that have come out over the years, and it's got this new one, the Vineyards, which really is wonderful. Jen, I really enjoyed that quite a bit. We love everything about it, and that's it. My number one game of the month, Castles of Burgundy, the special edition. Phew! And hey, welcome, Board Game Geek TV. You rated just in time to miss the roundup. I am done. That was my number one. Let's see. But you're just in time to do some Q&A, because what time is it now? Let's see. It is, oh my gosh. Oh, that clock is dead. Oh, and I killed Explorer. I killed Windows Explorer to give my system more resources so I can't see what time it is. All right, I will just go in a browser and type in, what time is it? It is 1:30. Okay, so we're at 1:30 Pacific time. Yes, it is ridiculous. I am a ridiculous person. Whoever just laughed at me. Keltonian, I agree 100%. I say, what the heck? I'm gonna turn. Let me bring up Task Manager and run Explorer again. Was there any glitching during the show? If there wasn't, then that proved it worked, because I was getting glitching right before the show, but then I killed Explorer and it was fine. Ridiculous. But anyway, folks who just showed up, thank you. Hopefully you had a good time with Lincoln and Nikki and the gang. I don't know what they were up to, but I've got now a half an hour to kill. Doing some Q&A with the audience and maybe doing some back and forth based on requests that have come in using channel points, because at 2 o'clock, in 30 minutes from now, we are going to be rating Ruel Gaviola, because he is going to be doing a run through of, I've forgotten the name of the game. But you'll want to stick around for that, because it's actually designed by his friend. And you love Ruel, don't you? Everybody loves Ruel. Ruel is the greatest guy in all of board gaming, and he wants to support his friend. You want to support Ruel, so definitely stick around for a half an hour for that raid. But for now, Lincoln was painting miniatures. Of course Lincoln was. Man, I was about to say I wish I was painting miniatures, but I just don't have the time. I just want I just want them painted. I just want them painted. I don't want to do the work. I'm sure it's fun and very satisfying, and it's a skill you can develop and all that. Maybe someday, maybe when I retire. But let's see. So what are we going to do? First of all, I'm going to check to see if any questions came into the queue during the roundup. It looks like I got a few. So first of all, folks, maybe there's some first timers here. If you have a question for me about the show, about games, about life in general, about RV living, because now Jen and I have made 2 road trips with our new RV, our new used RV, our 2003 Winnebago Bravo. Ask me the questions, but start your question with a question mark because it goes into a special queue so I can read them and I can put them on screen. So a few people have done it, and let's see. Right off the bat, I see that Goblin asked Fantasy Realms, because part of my countdown was I was ranking the individual Fantasy Realms games, and Goblin asked, well, how do I compare it to Red Rising? And I'm sure Goblin and everybody was surprised when I made a sneak guest appearance by Red Rising as well. So you already know the answer to that, Goblin. Let's see here. Goblin also asked, what are those stickers for? That was from earlier in the show when we were unboxing Discordia, and you actually got to see me not only unboxing this game, but putting it together and talking about how the gameplay works and all of that. And then also, making a cry out for folks who would like to help a small independent publisher, Iron Games, because they were robbed at Essen, which was a sizable percentage of their yearly income was stolen from them. And so, my run-through for Discordia will be coming soon. I'll talk about this there, too. There's basically a fundraising thing to kind of help small independent publisher kind of get back on their feet after such a huge, debilitating loss that happened to them at Essen. Let's see, what else have we got? Okay, it looks like Goblin was asking most of the questions during the show. Where can we see the Space Hulk Death Angel video? There are two ways you can see that. If you are a backer on Patreon, at the Recluse level, you can see my solo run-through of Space Hulk Death Angel with all 3 expansions active all at once. And you can also see, dozens of other videos, because I've been doing this for years now. It's actually interesting. It used to be I forget what we called it, but it was every month Jen and I would do behind-the-scenes stuff of our personal lives, and we kind of ran out of personal life stuff to talk about, so instead I then switched over to doing solo run-throughs. So there are like 4 years worth of videos that you could just say, hey, I'll just back on Patreon for just 1 month to watch the Space Hulk Death Angel, and hey, maybe, I don't know, about 100 hours of additional stuff, and you don't have to keep it going. So you can either back on Patreon at the Recluse level to see it, or you can be a member on YouTube at the more Rahdo level, and again, you'll be able to see it plus a bunch more stuff. Not the stuff that goes all the way back 4 years, but the stuff that goes back to the beginning of this year. So I think there's like 12 solo run-throughs, the most recent of which is Space Hulk Death Angel. So that's how you can see that stuff, either by becoming a member on YouTube or a backer on Patreon. And thanks for asking. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to explain it. Alrighty. Have I seen The Flood? What did I think? It looks like a retheme of Catan, which is cool, but it's weird that with the theme, it's not cooperative. That means I've totally missed that. If it's a retheme of Catan, does that mean it is not a multiplayer game? Hold on a second. Let's go take a look at The Flood. Oh, and here's the thing. This was Jeffrey Aller's raising funds for Iron Games. If you've ever played an Iron Games game, folks, or you just want to support small independent publishers who got ripped off, go to paypal.me/Iron Games. But anyway, let us go, and here's what time it was. I had to look that up because my clock was down. Where are we going? Oh, we're going to Board Game Geek, The Flood. The Flood. Alrighty. Resource. Oh, so it's a Noah game. It's based on Noah's Flood. Alrighty. From Bedouin Games. I do not know any of these designers. I do not know the publisher. The box art is very nice. No, I guess I've totally missed this one. I might have looked at it before and then passed on it because push your luck, honestly, that's not my favorite. That's not my jam, really. So, yeah, I might have skipped on it for that reason alone. Oh, hey, why are you... Oh, I know why it's zoomed out. Let's get this... Transform, fit to screen. There we go. Let's see. Apparently it's going to go on Kickstarter. I don't know. Bedouin Games never contacted me. Any publisher can contact me, and I'll take a look at the rules, and if it looks good to me or somebody else on the channel, we might cover it. But yeah, I think probably either I've completely missed this because I have to admit it doesn't sound familiar to me at all. 9 months ago. Oh, so it was on Kickstarter a while ago. And I guess they didn't contact us because I don't remember ever saying no to this when it was on Kickstarter. Historical context for the game. Could be cool. But I'm afraid I got nothing. I know nothing. I feel like... Oh, that's the wrong thing. There we go. I feel like I still know nothing about The Flood. But it is weird, though. That is very... Are people playing multiple Noah's Arks, Goblin? If so, that's ridiculous. That is absolutely absurd. We all need to be members of Noah's family working together to save the frickin' animals and get the ark built before time runs out. If it is not cooperative, heck, maybe that's why I passed on it, because that makes no sense at all. Alrighty, let's see, what else have we got here? What theme, asked Primary Guy. Congratulations, Primary Guy, on your swift, that's right. Oh, you got destroyed in the Battle Royale, in your first Battle Royale ever, by Goblin, as I recall. What theme do I rarely see that I've yet to see that be my jam? You know what? Actually, I did a top 10 on that very topic. If you do a search for Rahdo, unused themes, maybe? I'm just doing a Google search. Nope, that gives me Rahdo Unsettled. How about just Rahdo runs through Rahdo top 10 themes? Nope, that gives me different things. Oh, yes. All right, top 10 themes I hope to see. There we go. Go on, just do a search in YouTube for Rahdo top 10 themes I hope to see. Wait, oh no, that's on Google. That takes me to the podcast version. All right, now let's go to YouTube. And what the heck? Let's just go back to the browser so you can watch me do all this while you can see, hey, here's a queue of videos I'm going to watch later. I didn't mean to show you that. But folks, if you're on YouTube and you're not using the watch later system and combined with subscriptions, you're not doing it right. But anyway, there's a little bit of a sneak peek into the kind of stuff that I didn't expect to tell anybody that I watch. But anyway, what was I doing? Rahdo, top 10 themes hope to see. Let's see if it comes up with that. Yeah, there it is. Top 10 board games I hope to see. Your question is answered here. I tell you 10 that I'd like to see in that top 10. Alrighty. Back to the talking head. Back to the questiones. All right, close that one. Any good scary movies, books, shows for the spooky season? I just watched Barbarian the other night. That was pretty good. I liked it. I liked it quite a bit. I didn't like it as much as I thought it was really going to be amazing. It's weird. It's a Marmite. It seems like the critics raved about it, and audiences kind of bashed it, according to Rotten Tomatoes. I'm kind of like in the middle. The first half of the movie was phenomenal. Really, I don't want to spoil anything because it's one of those, hey, look, we've got surprises and stuff, as is often the case. So I wouldn't want to say anything about that. I would certainly say try to go in like I did, knowing absolutely nothing other than what is established in the first 30 seconds of the movie, which is a young woman goes to a bed and breakfast or an Airbnb, and it turns out it's already been booked by somebody else. It got double booked, and stuff happens after that. And I really enjoyed the first half, and the second half, it was okay. So I guess I'm not recommending that. This actually, last week, somebody asked, me and Ruel in the last R&R, what are our favorite scaries? And I mentioned at the time, I am such a sucker for found footage stuff. I love all the Paranormal Activity movies. I've watched the original Paranormal Activity several times, and it still gets me that raising base. Oh, and hey, I just saw Flash. Look at that. So started up Explore. I don't even care. We're in the casual times now, so I don't mind if there's some little glitches here or there. Let's see. Spooky shows. It's interesting. I used to be a lot more into years ago, but at some point I just kind of lost interest. Like I never watched, was it House on Haunted Hill? Apparently that's amazing. That's supposed to be an absolutely incredible show on Netflix. It was on my list of things to do, and I just never got around to it. And I've just kind of lost all interest in going for that. Barbarian, it was getting such rave reviews. I had to give it a try. It was okay. And there's one other that I want to watch. Wasn't there? Oh, that's driving me nuts now. Let me see if I can find it. Let's see here. Oh, wait. Oh, no. Okay. I got my laptop right here. I think I basically have a list of things I want to watch. Let me see if I can find it. Which is very exciting for people. While I'm waiting for my laptop to very slowly wake up, we will come back to that, Kabuki, in a second. And let's see here. Goblin asks, Great Western Trail. Was there a campaign? I do not believe he's put a campaign. He didn't put a campaign in the original, and there was no campaign for Argentina, which, honestly, if there had been, that probably would have had me bump it up a few levels, definitely. But it was not. Really surprising. Will there be a Tome Saga style campaign for all three? Would that make sense? I'm sure Alexander Pfister would love to do it, but it's all a question of whether the publisher in question wants to do it, if they want to pay Alexander Pfister more money to do that. I don't know. The fact that Tom Vassell is consistently, every opportunity he gets, bashing on the idea of bringing just simple little narrative campaigns into games, and he just hammers on it over and over. He hammers on two things relentlessly. Tins instead of cardboard boxes, and completely optional, narrative campaigns, or not campaigns, just like, hey, there's 5 chapters you can play through and unlock some stuff, or you can just skip it and have everything unlocked. For some reason, these make him so angry. Every chance he gets, he complains about them, and I'm afraid he's starting to make publishers shy away from them, which is such a shame because they're so wonderful. And they're totally optional, Tom. You don't have to try to make the industry stop doing it every chance you get. Anyway, though, sorry. So I don't know. I assume it's getting to where most publishers won't have Alexander Pfister do it, which is a crying shame because I love it. I love it. I love it a lot. Let's see here. No, I can't find it. I guess. Yeah, okay. I guess I didn't have another one. All right, never mind. Let's move on to the next question. Oh, I see questions are starting to build up. All righty. Let's see what we got here. Linnaeus Cabal played 3 witchy games. How would I rank them? Quacks of Quedlinburg, Whirling Witchcraft, and Broom Service. Well, I'd have to put Broom Service at the bottom, sadly, because the 2-player of Broom Service is nicht gut. Not good at all. I would love to play Broom Service at a higher player count, and if I could, I suspect I'd actually put it at the top. It's interesting. Whirling Witchcraft is okay at 2, but it is much better with more, and I have played it multiplayer. So Quacks of Quedlinburg, I will put at the top of the list because it works perfectly fine no matter what the player count is. Even though, as 2-player games, I'd go Quacks, number 1, Witchcraft, Whirling, number 2, Broom Service, number 3. At higher player count games, I would probably go Whirling number 1, Broom Service number 2, based on what I know of it, and Quacks at the bottom of the list. Hopefully that makes sense. Alrighty. What is the best meal to have or prepare in an RV? I feel like you've asked this before, Kabuki Kid, and I'll give the same answers before. Bacon and eggs. It's just comfort food. It's so easy to do when you're cooking on a propane stove. You don't want to do anything fancy with a lot of stuff going on at once. Just have a nice big pan, cook the bacon over there. The grease from the bacon seeps into the eggs. Sprinkle a little bit of cheese on top, and it's amazing. And if you have 3 eggs, you're good for the day. You do not have to eat until the next day. A couple slices and 3 eggs, I could easily skip food for 24 hours. Hey, listen, what's going on? What the? Oh, look at that. Thank you. Let's fix this. This is Q&A. Silly me. We are not still talking about this Castles of Burgundy special edition. Q&A'sville. Thank you. Well stickered. Okay. What is the best place to live in the USA for board gaming, weather, cost of living, low crime, etc.? Oh, that's a tough one. Well, cost of living. Definitely not on the coast then. Not on the East or the West Coast. I mean, obviously, you're going to be best if you want for board gaming. You're going to want to be in a major city. You're going to want to be in Portland, Oregon. Has such an amazing board game scene. It's incredible. Same for Los Angeles. Same for Seattle. Same for Chicago, probably. Same for Indianapolis. The bigger a city, the more people, the more groups, the more regular get-togethers you're going to have, the more game stores, the more access you're going to get to games. But your cost of living is going to go through the roof. There's a cost to pay for having, the most convenient lifestyle available to you. Plus, of course, there's a higher crime rate and all of that because there are physically more people there. Let's see. So, next to the moon, all those things, if you're trying to find a middle ground, you're probably going to want to go, Ask me in a couple of years, after I have done an RV tour of the entire country, stopping at local board game stores along the way. I'll probably have a better idea then. For some reason, I want to say Colorado. And that's just kind of a gut feeling I have. I know, if I recall correctly, Jen had a friend who opened a board game cafe in, I think it was Boulder. And Colorado is beautiful. And it's kind of got big cities, but not quite. So I'm just totally arbitrarily, based on nothing, I will say Colorado. And I will also say, hey, gang, welcome to the party, all my new pals. Becca Scott, thank you so much for bringing the funk and the noise. Here's what we're doing, folks. I've already finished me opening or doing an unboxing for the excellent Discordia. I've already finished filming my top 17 games for the month of October, and I'm just hanging out with the audience for another 10 minutes or so doing Q&A because we're going to be rating Ruel Gaviola, who is running through a brand new game, a world premiere exclusive that you won't want to miss. So if you hang out for 10 more minutes, Ruel, his mind will explode if I can, bring some Becca Scott viewers. And heck, if you're a Becca Scott fan, you might know Ruel. So we're going to be rating Ruel in a few minutes. But right now, I'm trying to get through questions. I just finished answering that one, and I said Colorado. And now we're moving on to... Okay, talked about getting bees. Any process on bees? No, it's something that's been on Jen's list of things to do for a long time, but I think it's a long ways off. We have an RV now. Now we are all focused all the time on, we're planning on driving from Washington State down to Vegas to go to the Dice Tower West Convention Library in March, and then probably not turning around, but continuing on south to Utah and seeing Zion and, some of the other national parks and making maybe even a 2-month-long round trip. That's what we're kind of planning on doing right now. So now is not a good time to get bees. Fortunately, we have our next door neighbor loves our chickens, so she's more than happy to come and make sure they're taken care of. And since we're on the road, we can take our beagles with us. So bees, I think that's going to wait until we probably move back to the UK. And fingers crossed, Ireland, and get a nice plot of land so Jen can rescue stray dogs and animals and bees. That's probably the long-term plan for Jen. But that probably won't be until we hit 60. We're still in our spry young 50s at the moment. Okay. With no oven, if you're on the road for Thanksgiving, what would be your meal of choice? Fry up some nice slice of ham, maybe. What we are planning on doing on the next trip is, it's interesting, our RV does not have an oven. Most of them do. Jen's not a big fan of cooking with ovens anyway. She has what is called the Ninja Foodie. And this show is not sponsored by Ninja Foodie, folks. But my mom bought... as a Christmas present, a Ninja Foodie for Jen 4 years ago, and it has transformed her life. She does everything. She never cooks on stovetop. She never uses the oven. Anything she wants to do. Soups, sautés, frying steaks, eggs and bacon, anything. She makes desserts in the thing. It's truly a miracle device. It's called the Ninja Foodie, Foodi, and we've looked into the amperage. We think we could definitely run it off the generator, maybe even off the house batteries. So for our next trip, we're taking that with us. And yeah, we could do a small turkey in the Foodie, no problem. Okay. Alrighty. Speaking of found footage, says Primary Guy, earlier there was a question about my favorite spooky movies, and I expressed a deep love for found footage films, obviously Blair Witch and Paranormal Activity. Found footage. Have I seen Chronicle from 2012? Oh yeah, Chronicle is fantastic. I really, really enjoyed that. Probably if I were to ever do a top 10, it'd probably number 3, really. And I don't know, I've probably seen 15 or 20 found footage films. And, even when they're bad, they're good. There's just something about the format that just speaks to me. And yeah, Chronicle is absolutely phenomenal. It does it so well. Because it's really hard to do that in a natural way. And of course, they always sometimes mess up. Really, I think about the only one that doesn't mess up at all is the original Blair Witch. Because they literally just said, hey, go out into the woods. We're not going to tell you what we're going to do. We're just going to try and scare the crap out of you. And every bit of fear you see in that is just a couple of kids who were local, who wanted to be actors, and oh my God, we were really terrified. This all feels very real. Alrighty. How do I feel about the wave of video game to board game video adaptation, Slay the Spire? I think that just launched today, didn't it? And yeah, I think it's great. I think it's a no-brainer. It's just an obvious choice because there's a lot of unique elements that make a great video game that don't necessarily transform to board games, but there's a lot of things that do. I mean, video games, you don't tend to think about it, but a big part of video games is resource management. A big part of video games is exploration. A big part of the games is strategic long-term planning. That's the bread and butter. So, I mean, yeah, it's a no-brainer. It makes more sense to do video games than it does to do books or movies, quite frankly, because at first, a few years ago, it was a recipe for disaster, but developers are getting better and better and better at it. Shay and I, we both covered the Skyrim one, and it's really, really well done. So no, I think it's fantastic. It's just like a no-brainer. I hope someday somebody makes board game adaptations of my video games. Siphon Filter, Pitfall, The Lost Expedition, Fable 2, Brink, Shark Tale. Oh, I'm not going to do my whole list of games I designed. Anyway, though, yeah, I think it's fantastic. Bring it on, I say. Just do it right. Don't try to half-ass it, which is what used to be happening like 5 years ago. I think it was Lucky Duck. They started doing good ones. I think Lucky Duck said, "Hey, these don't have to be just quick knockoffs, tie-ins." And so now you see, and Steam Forge, I think, they're the ones who did Skyrim and some of the other ones? I forget now. But it's getting better and better all the time. Alrighty. What else have we got here? Do I feel... And by the way, folks, the questions, if you want me to see your question, start the question with a question mark so I won't miss it. But do I feel Euros are getting heavier on average? Do I also think they're getting longer? I think that's been a great year for Eurogamers. That's a good question. Let's put that to the test, Skywolf. Let's go to top.rahdo.com. Let's bring the browser back up. So top.rahdo.com brings you to my entire collection of games sorted by year. Let's look at the top 10 games of 2012. Top 12 games of top 10 games of 2012 for me. Keyflower. That's just as big and long as heavy as anything today. Escape Curse of the Temple, that's almost a party game. Legends of Andor, that's a kind of nice mid-weight adventure game. Zulk and the Mayan Calendar, that's a big, heavy, crunchy game. Targi, that's a nice, not quite midweight, a little bit less. No, I'd say midweight, 2-player only game. Myrmes, oh, that was crunchy and heavy and big and long, definitely. Lords of Waterdeep, arguably the ultimate gateway Euro game. Oh, hey, I forgot to turn this off. How about I turn off the thing that's saying I'm not talking to people when I'm totally talking to people? And you folks just saw that I hit F12 to do that, which just put all that debugging stuff on the screen. Oh, I'm falling apart. Snowdonia, that's a nice midweight. Oddville. All right, and Fleet, which was an excellent card. All right, so I would say that skews not particularly long. There's some long ones. There's some crunchy ones there. But anyway, let's now go skip back to 2021. Roll for the camera. This is a nice, lightweight, short one. Arc Nova. Ooh, that's a big, long, heavy one. That's crazy long. Welcome to the Moon. Nice little roll and write. Gollum. That's kind of on par with your Zulk and the Mayan Calendar. Dog Lover. Oh my gosh, Dog Lover is so great. Again, a lighter Boon Lake. That's another Zulk and the Mayan Calendar one. Same thing. Funfair. That's like a nice medium weight. That's kind of a Targi level. Dungeon Decorators. That's on the lighter end. Unsettled. I wouldn't say that's light or long. And in fact, actually, they work really hard to make that as smooth and streamlined an experience as possible. And Corrosion. Another mid to high. So, just 2 random years of top 10s. And obviously that's just, I guess you're saying, well, does it feel that way to me? I would say no. Comparing 2012 to 2021, 9 years later, they both still feel like they've got, I would say that there is a more willing acceptance of longer games. And I don't know if that's a good thing. I don't know if that's necessary. It's certainly true for movies, too. Movies seem to be creeping up and up and up for no good reason. When I was in high school and I used to go see movies in the theater every week, because it was what you did in high school with all your friends, and, over 90 minutes was long. Now, over 2 hours is long. I guess maybe that's happening a little bit. But, Arc Nova doesn't feel that long to me as a 2-player game. I'm hard-pressed to say, too. the impact of more players in a game like Ark Nova really. Oh no, but Ark Nova is long. Ark Nova, which was my number 2 game of 2021, is longer than anything in my top. Let's go back to 2012 again. Let's go back to this. This is an interesting thing. I had never really thought about it. I don't just want to half-ass it. Hopefully you folks are talking about it too. Let's see. Right, I have 15 games left over from that have stayed in my collection from the year 2012. And so there was also Milestones, Morels, Siberia, Agricola, All Creatures Great and Small in the Cave. And definitely, Keyflower is the biggest, longest, and heaviest game from 2012 that I love. And Zulkin the Mayan Calendar. And Zulkin and Gollum are both the same. I would say Keyflower is longer than your average game too, but it's not as long as Ark Nova. So the other thing too is the question, are games getting more complex? I would definitely, or was that part of the question? I don't remember now. No, you only asked about, or you asked about heavier. Heavier, no. More complex, yes, definitely. Ever since, what was it? Gloomhaven just blew up. That has given developers, and not just Gloomhaven, the games of Mind Clash games, Vita Lasarda games. There has been proof that there is a sizable portion of hardcore extreme board game geeks that have a lot of money burning a hole in their pocket that want super crazy complex Byzantine games that 10 years ago no publisher in their right mind would have published. There's no way. And it's really the advent of crowdfunding that has, Mind Clash started out doing Kickstarters. And if they had just tried to take their stuff direct to market, they probably would have curled up and died or realized, oh, you know what? When those people at Cosmos told us we should have stripped 80% of this out to make it a more regular game, they were probably right. Because I don't think there's an audience for that for people who walk into brick and mortar stores. But Kickstarter flips the script, gives the companies more freedom, more of a safety net to be able to do what they want to do and not compromise. Gloomhaven, there is no way any publisher in the universe would have ever published that. But it found an audience, and it was an audience that has been wanting, and I know why. Certain people like complex games because it gives them a sense of satisfaction that they have mastered something that is big and Byzantine. And the bigger and more complex it is, the more satisfying it is to master it. And it feels great. I love it too. So, yeah, games are definitely getting more complex. Oh, and by the way, here's the tool I use to keep track. We have one more question, and then we raid Ruel. I may have answered this last week, but Raiding Kill had to log out. Let's see. Come back to me. Come back to my talking head. What is the game I really love playing and I'm bad at? Oh, that's a good question. Does it exist? Because here's the deal. I was just finished pontificating about how people really like the endorphin rush they get from the sense of accomplishment for mastering a complicated procedure, right? That feels good. It also feels good just to do things that you are inherently good at. And it doesn't feel good to do things, as a general rule, the way our brains are hardwired, we do not get a dopamine rush, as a general rule, for feeling stupid. And I don't know, is there a game I'm actively bad at? Let's go one more time back to the browser. But let's not do this one that breaks it down by year. Let's just go to ranked.rahdo.com. This is just everything, just based on my rankings. And let's look at the big pictures. All right, what am I actively bad at? I'm good at all of these games. I'm not saying I'm great, but I am definitely good at all of these games. And I think games that I've been bad at, I don't think, I can appreciate them. I can respect them. But can I enjoy them? I don't know. I'm sure other people can, but I just can't enjoy banging my head against a wall feeling stupid. So I don't think I'm going to have one. Rail? I think you were Rail? Yeah. I'm not saying I'm world champion, but I am good at all of these games. Yeah, and if I'm not good at it, chances are I didn't keep it. So I think that answers that question. And with that, one more. Joe King says, mini games I played, never knew you were playing it right or wrong. Oh, that's happened only a couple of times. That's happened a few times where, oh, yeah, I found out, a year later that I happened to mention something. You've been doing that wrong the whole time. Here's the deal. It kind of can't happen to me because every game I play, I film. And if Paulo doesn't rip me apart for making mistakes, then the audience will. So I find out very quickly if I did something wrong. So just because of the nature that I am in, it had happened a few times with games. Like, what's a good example of one? A game that once I found out, Le Havre. Le Havre is my go-to example. Le Havre, for a while, in my early days of being a board gamer, was in my top 10 games of all time. And I loved it. And then I eventually went filming it, and I found out I'd been playing wrong the entire time, and it dropped like a stone. Do I even keep Le Havre anymore? I don't think I do. I think I eventually got rid of it because I thought in Le Havre, if you take out loans, you have to pay interest on a loan every year. And you have to pay for all of them, or you do have to pay them for every year. But it doesn't in Le Havre. It doesn't matter. You could have one loan, you could have 10 loans, but no matter what, you just have to pay 1 franc in interest. And to me, that is borderline broken because it does create a very specific strategy that is easy to do and is super hard to do better than, so much so that it kind of railroads you in one direction. Now, in a multiplayer, in a higher player count game, it doesn't matter because with more people, there's more vying for stuff and it's harder to use the Coke steal, ignore everything else strategy by having 10 or 12 loans that you pay no interest on. But as a 2-player game, it just kind of ruined Le Havre for me. And there's a lot of controversy. A lot of people say that's not the case. I can't say whether it's the case at higher player count, but it is definitely 100%. If you're playing a 2-player game of Le Havre and you're trying to pursue a leather strategy with few loans so you can make your food off of the animal byproducts, I will destroy you by just ignoring all of my feeding needs whatsoever, just taking more and more and more and more loans with no consequence to it whatsoever, and then just pay it all off at the end of the game with my proceeds because I've scored so many points. So that would be an example. And that's it, folks. It is time to raid and give Ruel all the love in the world. My favorite person in the entire board game industry. He is just sitting there. I see him right now waiting for you to come. So everybody use those Rahdo raid stickers you got with the chicken and all of them, the beagle and all of that. And go give Ruel some love. He's had he's still in the B&B. I was hoping I'd see him back in his home. He's still on the road. Everybody, all the love and support to Ruel, my partner in crime. Raid now. Go, 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 go. And it looks like it's working. And let's go to twitch.tv/Ruel Gaviola just to confirm it worked. Boop. And let's see here. I don't see anybody saying, came on the raid, hello. Okay, yes, it worked. Cool. All right, he is good to go. Okay, Ruel, impress everybody with that planet flipper, won't you? And folks, as always, thanks for watching. I gotta go now see if I've got don't need any more. If I've got the video from Shay so I can start editing together the final version of the Roundup. But otherwise, talk to you later, everybody. So long. Bye-bye. Bye. Bye.